Hi, good afternoon. My name is Brandy Holm. I'm currently a master's student at Arizona State University's sociology program. Today I want to present to you a little bit on bullying and its effects on incidences of school violence or mass school violence, such as school shootings. I first became interested in this topic after I graduated with my undergraduate degree back in 2019. I was approached by a professor of psychology and one of my really close friends to help bring a sociological perspective to their research on bullying, masculinity, and the effects of those two things on school shootings and school mass violence for a few lectures they were preparing for a class the following semester. I became interested again when I was working on the newsletter and presentation for Capstone 2. And the topic has always been very personally relevant to me, as I spent a lot of my school career in high school and middle school being bullied for my physical appearance, my personality, my attitude, the hobbies that I had, and it really, affected how I interacted with my peers and my friend groups, and even how I experienced high school and the graduation from high school. This topic is also very socially relevant today. Of course, we haven't seen any incidences of major school violence since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, but as we keep seeing those sort of incidences and the possibility that those could occur again as we return to in-person learning, it's really interesting to look at the conversations around bullying that follow these incidences and whether bullying is the cause, the only cause, or one of the causes of these sorts of school violence. So first, let's talk about what bullying is. Bullying has been operationalized and defined in 4 different categories, or subcategories rather. First, we have physical bullying. This is kicking, slapping, hitting, biting, anything that physically could leave a mark. Verbal bullying, insults, threats, name-calling, blackmail, that sort of thing. Relational bullying, actually most often used by female bullies. This bullying does not target only the victim, but seeks to damage the victim's relationships with their friends, their peers, and even their families. And then we have cyberbullying, or the use of technology in bullying, like social media apps, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, the internet in general. The effects of bullying, which I will discuss a little bit more in a couple more slides, can lead victims of bullying to feel anxious, depressed, even scared to go to school, attend their classes, or even spend time in crowded areas of the school building like the cafeteria for fear of being harassed or attacked, which can impact their ability to learn in that environment. Children who are the bullies tend to show more incidents of violence as they get older, fall into groups of students or other children who are also aggressive and bully others, and this can even lead to involvement in the criminal justice system. Now, before I go to the next slide, I want you to take a minute and think about the incidences of school violence that you may have heard about in the near past. What those incidents made you think of, how the way the media framed things made you think about the actual number of incidences we have faced. So we're going to jump around for a minute. School shootings might actually be more of an American problem than we think. In fact, the US has ownership of over half of the incidences of major school violence between 2000 and 2010, and the number on your screen right now, 1,000, is the number of school shootings we've experienced in the United States since 1970. Over a quarter of these took place after 2012 following the events of the Sandy Hook shooting. Bullying is one of the most frequent forms of what is considered low-level violence. In fact, nearly 30% of students between 6th and 10th grade have experienced some form of bullying, and they report a fear of being harassed or attacked during their school day. This bullying leads to rejection, and that rejection leads students to have a negative response, and that response tells them to act in a way that grants them some sort of return back to social acceptance within their peer group, and to defend themselves from being harmed further or rejected further. In fact, most cases of school shooting violence, the perpetrators reported that they felt rejected, that they were bullied or teased, and they went after the people who bullied them first, in a way to sort of establish their power, their control, and the fact that they shouldn't have been messed with. Some students who've committed acts of violence have also sought out females who may have rejected their romantic advancements. Now, while bullying does play a large part in school violence, it can't be thought of as the only cause, and it can't be considered as the only cause. It needs to be looked at in interaction with other factors. A lot of bullies or people who go on to commit acts of school violence already had poor or non-existent relationships with their families, and they were starting to show signs of mental illness, such as depression or anxiety. So here's another question. What can we do? How can we, as teachers, school officials, students, administrators, researchers, people, how do we help prevent bullying in school? How do we help address these problems before it turns into the kind of tragedies that we've seen at Sandy Hook and in Florida a few years ago? One of the ways we can do this is by making policy about the fact that bullying will be taken seriously. But these policies, they need to be applied fairly and consistently throughout all settings and situations. Some schools have tried policies and strategies that focus on self-empowerment for the victim. And while that is very, very helpful for the victims, it doesn't really focus on the root cause of bullying, which research has stated is the power imbalance between the victim of bullying and the bully themselves. The most effective prevention plans have found to be those that focus on involving everybody: students, the bully and victim alike, the teachers, the staff, the families, and the communities that surround the school. You can do this by doing school-wide interventions where you really have a conversation with the entire student body and staff about bullying and what this looks like and how the school will respond to this, how the school views these incidences and reacts to them. You can do this by using classroom interventions where you really focus on teachers and staff and how they respond to bullying, how they handle incidences that they witness or that are reported by other students. You can do this using individual interventions where you focus on small groups of students, whether they are victims of bullying or they are the bullies, and really look at the causes that led them to bully or that led the victims to either report the incidences of bullying or not report those incidents. Surveys can also be used. In a lot of the research that I found, surveys were used to give the students and staff of the school a chance to explain the types of bullying that they were seeing, the types of reactions they were seeing from students and staff, if they felt that their classrooms and were safe and that teachers and staff were responding appropriately to bullying. Those surveys can also be used to find what are called hotspots, or areas in the school where bullying might be more prevalent. For example, when I was in high school, there was a staircase called the Never-Ending Staircase. This was one of the only places in the school that didn't have a camera, and so students would go there to do whatever acts were deemed forbidden by the school and not get caught. That could be a hot spot, and if we can identify those places, we can increase supervision, adult supervision in those areas to help prevent bullying from breaking out. These suggestions do seem very simple, but again, it's really important to note that across all research, it is mentioned that we need to apply these fairly and consistently across all settings and situations. I would like to thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation. I'm going to put the references on the screen now. A link will be posted to our discussion post, and I will have some more questions for you there. Thank you.